The Legend of Zelda is one of my absolute favorite game series, and while we can't play an official Zelda game on mobile just yet, there's plenty of spiritual spin-offs to keep you busy until then. Hey warriors, I'm Ben, and today on Android Gamespot I'll talk about my picks for the 12 best action-adventure games like Zelda on mobile. Of course, if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description down below or at the end of this video. And just a quick reminder before we begin, I publish new videos every week, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more epic content. Number 12, Stories of Bethem. Starting with a game that's inspired from the very first Zelda ever released on the NES, Stories of Bethem Full Moon brings to the mix a classic action RPG adventure that's been designed for mobile devices with optimal gameplay in mind. The story is based around Koma, a boy in search of his missing father, and you need the help of the Red Witch to lift the curse off your dad, but first, you must gather a few items, and this is the starting point of your adventures. There are of course dungeons to explore, puzzles to solve, monsters and bosses to defeat, and while I'm at it, the bosses look awesome by the way. The game gets a bit repetitive and doesn't really bring anything new to the table, but for the price, it's still worth getting it for a fun blast from the past, and if you're not sure yet, you can play the first dungeon for free before unlocking the full game, so I would say try it out. Number 11, The Legend of the Skyfish. First of all, let's get something out of the way with The Legend of the Skyfish. This game design is absolutely gorgeous, and it plays just as well for that matter. While playing The Legend of the Skyfish, the Zelda inspirations are obvious and welcome. The game puts more focus on solving puzzles rather than allowing you to explore more of its stunning world. Also, neither the puzzles or the combat gives much of a challenge for the early and middle stages. Granted, the difficulty gets jacked up by the end of the game, but I feel like that's a little too late, and for that reason as well, the replay value kind of drops. Still, I would highly recommend The Legend of the Skyfish to any Zelda fan. Number 10, Irodo. In Irodo, you play as a girl stranded on an island, and along with her weasel companion, you must find a way, and that will include smashing enemies either with the different weapons you will come across or with magic spells. Puzzle solving is perhaps the bread and butter of this game, and I can understand such a choice by the developers as mobile devices aren't ideal for combat heavy controls. And while action adventure games tend to have very little in terms of story and dialogue, the little that Irodo has is some great stuff, and another thing that stands out is the humor. This is one of the funniest games I've played on mobile in a while. Everything mentioned plus the price tag makes this a no-brainer pickup. Number 9. The Sword of Ditto. The Sword of Ditto is a compact roguelike RPG with beautiful cartoonish visuals that I personally like. You wake up in the shoes of a hero, and your main task is to explore the world while seeking the Toys of Legend so that you can triumph over the villain Mormo. The Sword of Ditto blends in colorful graphics and a delightful soundtrack with light puzzles and simple yet challenging combat. On your quest, you'll be slashing through enemies, collecting items, meeting oddball but interesting characters, and watching the world through its permadeath feature adapt to your past playthroughs, which feels rewarding every time you progress just a little bit further than the last time. The Sword of Ditto doesn't bring anything new to the table, but its charm will win you over, making it worth playing. Number 8, Oceanhorn. In Oceanhorn, you play as a boy in search of his father who left to kill a mechanical monster that terrorizes the world they live in and who goes by the name of Oceanhorn. This was one of the best Zelda-like games on mobile when it came out. The graphics are gorgeous, the combat is simple but fun, there are many islands to discover, these have their own characters, enemies and weathers, some have towns for example with mini dungeons, some are just bigger sized dungeons with puzzles and secrets and bosses and so on. And the game soundtrack is absolutely amazing with some tracks composed by Nobuo Uematsu and Kenji Ito, both known for their work on the musical of Final Fantasy and the Mana series. In fact, I enjoyed the game so much the first time around that when I replayed it when it came out on the PlayStation Vita, I went ahead and got the Platinum Trophy achievement requiring you to complete every quest and collect all the secret items, and it was an absolute joy. Number 7, Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana came out originally in the early 90s on the SNES, and the re-release came out about 10 years ago on Android and iOS, and had many visual and audio bugs and a lack of controller support. Thankfully, all this has been fixed over the years with updates from the developers, and the adventure the Secret of Mana features today is one that I highly recommend to try. The universe is colorful and charming, and so are the characters. The story will hook you up, and the combat and progression will keep you entertained for hours. A classic to discover or revisit. Number 6. Adventures of Mana. This game came out at a time where I was still doing gameplay videos, and the gameplay series for this game is still up on the channel if you're curious. Adventures of Mana is a remake of a retro game by Square Enix, the game in question being Final Fantasy Adventure from the early 90s. This is a 3D action-adventure game with decent visuals, where the Final Fantasy touch is there no doubt, and it's actually one of the better console-quality Zelda-like games in 3D on mobile. The gameplay is smooth, and so is how the story unfolds. The price tag, on the other hand, is kind of high, so I would recommend waiting for a sale if you feel so, and picking up one of the lower priced games in this video that are just as fun but don't break the piggy bank. Number 5. The Evoland Series. The first Evoland brought a fresh concept to the table, a journey through the history of classic action-adventure RPG games, so as you progress through the game, you will unlock new technologies, gameplay systems, and improving graphics from retro-style visuals to full 3D graphics, and for combat, from turn-based battles to real-time boss fights. Evoland puts you in the front seat through the evolution of the genre, while even throwing in some humor in the mix. The sequel improves on every aspect with a stronger plot, more fun bosses, puzzles, and a wider variety of challenges. Highly recommend this series. Number 4. Ys Chronicles Series. I was late to the Ys series and got my introduction with the first Ys Chronicles on mobile, which was a remake of the classic action RPG from the 80s, Ys Ancient, Ys Vanished. And apart from the not so great English translation, it was a well done remake. Ys Chronicles 2 is the direct sequel and starts right where the first game ends, and it's more of the same recipe. In other words, great action RPG, but I would recommend playing the first game before the sequel, as the story and even the gameplay systems in Ys 2 expect you to having played the prequel. Two absolute classics for a bargain. Number 3. Zenonia IV. With the Zenonia series, every new game in the saga improved on the shortcomings of the previous, and so Zenonia IV brings in a formula that has been refined over and over the years. The game features solid mechanics, gorgeous 2D graphics, and decent action gameplay. You can also customize your characters from head to toe, and if you can turn the blind eye to the story and dialogue, which are okay at best, you are guaranteed a fun and a unique action RPG to enjoy on mobile. Number 2. Oceanhorn 2. Oceanhorn 2 may not actually be out on Android and iOS just yet, but it was released not long ago on the Apple Arcade. I won't go into too much details for this one, as I have made an entire video about it. Link is in the description, but briefly, Oceanhorn 2 brings in some of the best graphics on current mobile gen, a story that is happening 1000 years before the events of the first game, real-time combat that involves some strategy, items to collect, and puzzles to solve. This is high on my most anticipated games to play. Number 1. Genshin Impact. Coming from the same team that brought us Honkai Impact 3rd, Genshin Impact is an original IP, and so although it may seem like it's a copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and honestly that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, it's actually not a copy, period. At the start of the game, you'll be able to choose a male or female character, and you will encounter many characters along your journey that you'll be able to control. Genshin Impact is set in a diverse open world, and the game is pretty unique, as you can interact with different environments by climbing, walking, or even gliding. For now, there's a total of 30 characters you can collect, and the combat system is hack and slash with two major types of attacks: normal skills and special skills. A first closed beta test took place earlier this month, and more are on the way. And that sums up my picks for the best Zelda-like games on mobile, and I'm curious, which of these games have you played? Any new ones you wanna try? Let me know in the comment section down below. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, your likes are very much appreciated, and subscribing is a good idea if you haven't yet, as I make new videos like this every week. Also, special thanks to my Patreon supporters and YouTube members, and if you also want to support my work, you can sign up for a membership on Patreon or YouTube for as little as $1 and get access to exclusive badges and emojis, behind the scenes rewards, or your name in the videos. So head over to patreon.com/AndroidGamespot or check out the links in the description below. Once again, I'm Ben, thank you warriors for watching, and I'll see you next time, right here on Android Gamespot. Stay home and stay epic.